something, baby, you are the change now. Let them talk, let them talk, let them talk. Took my lumps, roll with the punches.
Hi guys, and welcome to the Biscuit Guy with me, Alex Whiteley, not Martha. That was a joke I was playing earlier. I forgot to change that back, so it's just going to stick there. Like. If you follow me from the Shrewsbury Biscuit podcast, a bit of a disclaimer. This is a bit more adult. There's a bit more fluidity to this. We can sort of swear and be a bit more adult about things. But same premise though. I invite a great guest on to find out about their story. And today's great guest is someone who has been in the background supporting me with the Shrewsbury Biscuit for a very long time. So I'm very pleased to welcome Tracey J. Morgan. Thank you so much for coming onto the show.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm very excited.
This is a new part of. I say new part of my life. This is something I used to do a while. Let me turn this fan off. Actually, that's a rookie error having a fan on the background with a microphone. I used to do a lot of podcasting where I could have a couple of beers and just be myself and be a bit more relaxed. And I got a job in the council, which meant I had to be a bit more careful. So I had to put that away. Whereas I've realised I kind of need that. I think we all need to just blow off a bit of steam now and again, don't we?
Absolutely. It's good to be yourself as well, isn't it? I mean, like, you're always yourself, but it's good to be yourself with your guard down as well, I think, isn't it? Just to be relaxed and just be you. Yeah, it's cool.
People talk about old men yelling at clouds all the time, but I think that's healthy. It's like we need to vent off and you're like, these bastards, they're letting us down. But, yeah.
You got to get it out at the minute. The world is a crazy place, isn't it? You got to get it out one way or the other. I think. Yeah.
It is mad at the moment. I was talking to earlier about there's some mad stuff because so talking about the woke community and being like, I was proud to be a woke person. Like, I have always been accepting and inclusivity is very important to me, and I always fight for those for everyone, you know. But there seems to be a lot of people sort of reeling back at the moment. The Death of Slim Shady by Eminem was. I think Eminem is kind of like leaning left, but kind of like, we should be able to say what we want, but let's not be pricks about it. Do you know what I mean? And then you've got the Disney Plus have just cancelled The Acolyte, which is a Star Wars show, which people are complaining is too woke, blah, 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 blah. And I was thinking, oh no, this is gonna, and I feel like we're kind of starting to reel back a bit. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, because I feel like,
I don't know. It's a strange thing, isn't it? Because I'd like to consider myself as woke, which means basically you're wide awake. You're aware of people and the things that are going on around you, and you're accepting of stuff. I can't see why that's a bad thing. I don't know why people use it as an insult, because it's really not an insult, is it?
It's not. No. No. Oh, so what you're saying? I'm too decent. Yeah. I'm a nice guy. Yeah. Thanks. I'm really offended by that. But I can see where people might think that it's kind of been shoehorned in a lot. And it's kind of like, I feel like the outrage where it doesn't belong is kind of a bad thing as well. So if you misgender someone, I mean, it's a genuine thing. Sometimes I don't think it sometimes deserves that it gets. Do you know what I mean? I feel like if we can all grow as society, that's different. But you can't kind of force it. You kind of have to let people grow. You know?
Yeah, we're learning all the time, aren't we? That's the thing. We're learning all the time. We're trying our best, and it doesn't matter how hard you try. Sometimes you make a mistake.
Absolutely.
That's just the way it's going to be. And how you deal with that, and how the other person or whoever the community deals with that that's kind of down to both sides, isn't it? Really is. I don't think, as long as you didn't mean to offend and you can learn from stuff, then, you know, as long as you've got a good heart, it's okay, isn't it? Really, you know. And
I feel like there's no better way to learn about these things than through literature. I think literature is like, we go back to you know, you being a fantastic author and writing about things that, you know, we talk about, you write about John Candy, who's in comedies that if they were made today, maybe people would feel a bit differently about them. You know what I mean? But I love John Candy. I love all those. The 80s was a coke-fueled era of delight when it comes to movies, and I feel like we need to cherish that. That was a different way of life. We need to absolutely document that.
It was a lovely time. It really was. And you're right. There's parts in certain movies, well, in any 80s movies, to be honest, they sometimes swing a bit close to the wind now, if you think about it. But it was of its time. They didn't mean any harm by that. We've learned a lot in the last my God, I hate to say 24 years, but it is 24 years since it was the 80s. Well, I guess we'll say it's 24, isn't it? Oh no, it's more than that.
It's more than that now. Yeah,
because I'm like feeling very old.
24
right
years ago. 24 years ago was the millennium.
Come a long way, but it's still a lot of fun. And the premise was the stories behind those movies in the 80s. They were coming from a good place most of the time.
They were, and I feel like when we look at like how society's moved on, I feel like if you start removing those things, like we're hearing about these Gen Zers like refusing to watch Friends and not watching all these kind of things that happen. It's kind of like you gotta kind of enjoy that. There was what's that TV show? Something in Mars. What's it called? Where he goes back into the 70s.
Oh gosh.
It's a 70s cop drama. I
can't think of it. I'm sorry.
He's a cop that goes back to the 1970s, and I think he's in it. I don't want to spoil it. But he goes back to the 1970s. He's a cop, and they're doing things that absolutely disgust him. They're like wading into like crime scenes and picking things up. He's like, whoa, this is a crime scene, like, and they're like smoking on the job, all these kind of things. And I feel like we need to sometimes take a step back and just look at these things. What's the most important thing for you when it comes to like telling the story of something that is kind of considered like from a different era now? Is it telling the truth? Is it romanticizing those things?
It's difficult, isn't it? I think you can look back at those eras and go, yeah, actually, that sort of humour was accepted by back then, but I don't think they meant any harm by it. We're better educated now. I think it's so hard to know, isn't it? Because you can't disguise it. You can't ignore it, some of the things that happened. And I guess you can't excuse it that much, but to a point you can go, well, it was of its time. We've learned more. They were coming from a place what they thought was okay. I don't think anybody was trying to offend anybody at that stage. Certainly John Candy, I know we're talking about films in general, but John Candy never wanted to offend anybody. He was like the sweetest man ever. So I think now looking back, he would be quite devastated to think that he'd upset anybody these days. Do you know what I mean? I
think, yeah, and I think you're right. Like, some of the movies he's been in are like, for me, that they mean so well. They're such brilliant humor. And it comes from, you can see that it comes from a good place. I think it's like I said, we were talking at the beginning, some people just trip over themselves sometimes to find something wrong with something. The TV show I was talking about is called Life on Mars. Absolutely check that out. It's such a
I will.
It's a really, really good show.
It's funny you mentioned that, because I also work in veterinary in the day, like as part of my day job. And I went for a job interview about 15 years ago, I think it was. And they were like, oh, back in the day, we used to smoke whilst we were doing surgery in theatre. I was like, oh, good God, do you know what I mean? Like, the world's just come on so far. Can you imagine, like, having any surgery? Humans, they probably did the same. It's crackers, isn't it? Wouldn't happen now. But
I remember working in I remember working in a casino years ago. I was an assistant manager at some casino in Wrexham, and I was in the back poking around for something. I can't remember what I was looking for, and I found all these like ashtrays that were on stands that they used to bring out to people. And there's loads of it. I was like, what the fuck is this? They used to bring out an ashtray and stand there smoking while you're on the machines. Like, I mean, it's bizarre, isn't it, to think how far we've come even in the last sort of 10 years, 20 years. Like, it's crazy.
Yeah. I remember when the smoking ban came in, because I used to DJ in Liverpool. We had a night called Mixed Bag. And I remember exactly when the smoking ban came in, because I felt less hungover after a shift, because I didn't drink when I was DJing, but I always felt hungover. I think 1, because I was tired, 2, because I probably inhaled so much smoke from other people. But the smell of farts really hit hard once they stopped the smoking ban. Yeah.
Really? That's mad.
I was like, oh God, what would I rather have? People's pee particles in my lungs or people's smoke? I don't know. It's
my God. I don't miss walking across a dance floor and getting brushed with a cigarette and stuff. That was
no, goodness, no.
And the smell of your clothes and a girl's hair and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're better off, people. We're better. This is progress we've made right here.
True story.
So Tracey, where do you hail from originally? Are you? I mean, we know each other from Shropshire, Shrewsbury, Shropshire, but where do you hail from originally?
Yeah, from Shrewsbury originally. Lived in Millbrace, born and bred, and then after uni, I stayed in Liverpool for about 14 years, and then I moved home about 12 years ago. And I'm glad to be home. I am glad to be home. Liverpool is my second home, but I did miss Shrewsbury, and it's nice to be back. Definitely, yeah.
See, like Liverpool, I've said this many times on the podcast, so it's true. But Liverpool's one of my favourite places on the planet. You know, I'm well travelled, been all around the world, but Liverpool for its culture, and it's just a general vibe about the place. It seems like a really good place to be. But I don't think I'd like to live there. I look at cities sometimes and I think, oh, this place is cool, but to live here would do my absolute nutting. Like people driving. We used to travel to Colombia. We go to Bogota. My wife's from Colombia, so we go and stay there. And I always think that those trips were never like a holiday. Never like a holiday, because you'd be getting a cab from one side of the city to the other to go and visit someone, then a cab back, and then that night we'd be going getting another cab to go back out again. It was all the hustle, and by the end of it, you're exhausted. You need another holiday.
Yeah, no, I hear you. It wasn't probably the most relaxing place to live, but as you say, it was probably the most cultural and sort of multicultural place to live, and the sense of humour there is second to none as well. You know, they made you think quick on your feet. I'm hoping that I'm considered an honorary Scouser. And my boyfriend says when I get angry, I go very Scouse still. I picked up the accent a bit, but yeah, no, it was a good time in my life when I was busy and happy to be busy. And it was vibrant and there was a lot going on and I was part of a scene. But it could only run for so long, really. And then I kind of felt the need to come back and, you know, chill out a bit more and have a bit more of a slower pace of life, I think.
I've heard so many stories over the years of professionals that have moved away from Shrewsbury for one way, reason or another, it's university or a job or a career or the guy or the girl, and then they always end up coming back because there's nothing like the Shire, is there? I mean, it is. No. It is a peaceful life around here. But what brought you back initially? Was it a job? Were you following a career or just fancied getting out?
I'd had like a weird time. I'd had a weird time, probably about 3 years before deciding I didn't come back. And I'd had like 12 months off work with depression. And I'd worked for quite a very large charity as a fundraising manager. And I'd loved my job, but it was hard. And there was an element to it, whereas you think if you work for a charity, that's quite a nice thing to do. Actually, it's quite competitive at times as well. And I'd got really depressed. I'd got really down. I'd lost my dad when I was 21 and I was kind of working for a charity that I associated with him. And that's why I wanted to work there. But I came across, you know, a lot of things that were quite sad as well. And that got me down a bit. And so I had kind of 12 months out. And then I decided I'd go and work with animals. So I kind of waved goodbye to like the decent wage and everything else and went to work with animals and found my love there, which, you know, I'd always loved animals. I have a lot of rescue animals and I'd always wanted to work with animals as a kid. So I started doing that and I was in a relationship. I wasn't happy. And it was just, you know, after 3 years, I just thought, you know what, I think it might be time to go home. I was living in Dingle, which I was living on a rough road in Dingle in Liverpool. There's some really lovely areas of Dingle as well. Like if you ever watched Bread in the 80s and early 90s, some of the Dingle streets were the bread streets. I wasn't in one of those. I was in sort of a street that was actually notoriously known for not being great. I've been burgled 3 times and that wasn't the Liverpool I knew. I'd lived there a long time and I'd always had a good time. And I sometimes think when you get kicked a bit by life, it's, I know people say I'm an old hippie, but it's like the universe trying to tell you something.
Hard
and
reset.
If you don't listen, yeah. And if you don't listen, it kicks you a bit harder and it keeps kicking you until you go, oh, okay. So I had the opportunity to move home and I took it. And it was probably one of the best things I did at that stage in my life, I think. Yeah.
I think as an adult, I think we need to go through that. I think we need that. Yeah. there's signs from the universe. It's happened to me a couple of times in the last 2 years. People like are trying to keep up with my content at the moment, and they're kind of like, "What the fuck is he doing? Like he's doing the biscuit. He's not doing the biscuit. He's doing seasons. Now he's not doing a season. He's doing the biscuit guy. He's not doing the biscuit guy. What's going on?" And it's because like I love doing this. I love doing this. It's my passion. Like, but it's really hard to balance real life with these kind of creative pleasures that I have. And like, I don't just record a podcast. I've been in the studio all day, making these wavy lines behind the screens, making like videos. It's amazing. I love it. I live for it. But you need time, and sometimes
you do.
I say yes to everything. I was going, yeah, I'll do this festival. Yes, we'll do this interview. Yes, I'll do this. I'll do You Suck. I'll do Pod Aid. I'll do the radio. I'll do the biscuit. I'll do a full-time job. And I crashed and burned like bad.
Yeah.
And I feel like if you can continue doing what you love after all that, I'm still here, you're still here, then I think you've made it. I think you've realised what is important.
Yeah, you do. You learn a lot of lessons along the way. And I think you also go, right, okay, I didn't look after myself then. I'm never going to get myself in that situation again. And I'm not saying that we don't make mistakes and we don't always look after ourselves, but you never go back to that same place. You do learn enough to not get that bogged down again. Do you know what I mean? And the thing is, you're a natural, you're brilliant, and you're doing all these podcasts and it's fantastic. And the thing is, I think with being creative is that's what you want to do. That's what you want to do. You want to live and breathe it. And then there's real life, and we have to pay bills, and we have to do all these adult things. And I really don't believe I'm an adult at the age of 46 still. I'm like, I thought that the 80s were still 24 years away, but I've just realised in my head before, it's a lot longer than that. But I won't.
Closer to 40 years, yeah.
Let's just pretend in my happy La La Land it's 24 years ago. It doesn't sound so bad now. But it's hard because I think it's hard being creative as well, because you have to put so much into things. It's like when you finish your day job, some people go and sit and watch the telly, or they go out for the night, or they do their other bits and bobs and they get ready for the next day. Whereas you're probably always thinking or creating. And if you're not thinking or creating, well, then you're ruminating about the next thing you're still thinking, aren't you? Then, your brain's still working. Even if you're sitting still, your brain is usually working like a Trojan, isn't it?
Yeah.
And as much as it's brilliant, it can be exhausting when real life gets in the way as well. It's hard. But you know what? You're doing it. It's brilliant, and you're here.
Especially when you've got people dependent on you. Kids. And my wife is amazing. But I can, because I've done 2 podcasts today. I've got one at 11 o'clock tomorrow and another one in the evening, because I am just in full, like, let's do this mode. Like, I want to get all this Biscuits guy stuff done for a little bit so I can concentrate on the biscuit and then do some more Biscuit guy stuff. So I'm kind of staggering it. And I feel like I'm back, baby. I feel like I'm back. But that passion, that kind of thing, it can lead you astray. I mean, it can really fuck you. I'll be like, I've been sat, like I said, here all day. My first podcast today was at 1 o'clock with the amazing Adribs, 12 o'clock. I finished with him and I edited that podcast straight away. Did it, bam, it's done, ready to go. Because I'm in the zone. Did you, when you decided, because you got a full-time job, you do your thing, when you wanted to start writing, what did that kind of take over your life a little bit? Did you like engross yourself into it, or did it kind of come bit by bit? How did that happen for you?
It took over my head for sure. So it was like for a long, long time, it was all I thought about. And all I wanted to do was learn about John. And all I wanted to do was watch the things I hadn't watched, or, what he'd done previously to me being born, and just learning and absorbing. So certainly my head didn't stop on it. And I think the people I worked with at the time were like, oh God, she's talking about John Candy again, They know a lot about him just through osmosis, I think. But writing the book kind of came in fits and starts. And I think it was because I wasn't a writer before I decided to write that book, so it seemed like quite a random thing for somebody who wasn't a writer to do, I guess. But I had to learn the process of writing along at the same time. And and it would come in fits and starts, and the interviews came in fits and starts. So from being somebody who nobody knows about, and still nobody knows about me, I don't want to say a nobody because we're all somebody, but I'm not a famous writer or anything like that, and trying to get people in the US and Canada who'd worked in Hollywood to talk to me about John Candy, and they're like, a girl in the UK, she's writing a book about John Candy, is that strange? And I'm like, well, when you consider, I grew up with Uncle Buck and Planes, Trains and the great outdoors, and I fell in love with him when I was a kid, and then when I had that 12 months depression, I revisited a lot of nostalgia, because I think nostalgia can make you feel great, can't it?
Yeah.
And most of that was like John Candy films. Sorry, I've gone off at a bit of a tangent, haven't I?
No, that's fine. But, it's fine. I like
yeah, so the books were fits and starts, really. And you've had Joe Schumann on your show, and it was Joe Schumann that really pushed me in the end. That and the fact that I told people I was writing it. Once you tell somebody you're doing something, you have to go through with it, don't you?
Absolutely. Joe is great, by the way. There is an episode I did with him with the Shoes of Biscuit. You should definitely check that out. I should get him on here as well, because something tells me that he'd probably like the bit more relaxed version of the podcast. But so was it Searching for Candy, the first book that you did? Was it the book? So
lovely graphic, thank you very much. Yes, Searching
like.
for Candy. So I bought that out in 2019. And I didn't really know what was going to happen with it. I self-published. I'd interviewed over 70 of John's colleagues and friends, including people like Mel Brooks and Carl Reiner.
Oh, what a dream.
And I know, seriously. And I was so lucky, because I was so green going into it. I sometimes think when you don't know what you're doing, then somehow you find a way. Do you know what I mean? So I got an interview with Carl Reiner because I couldn't find any emails, any management, anything like that. No one was getting back to me. And I thought, one last ditch attempt, I'm just going to tweet him. And I would never do that. I would never reach out to some like comedy royalty and go, can I have an interview, on the off chance? Because for one, they're probably not going to see it. And literally within 5 minutes, I had a message back from him in my inbox. So I think I was just incredibly lucky, because I was incredibly naive. Do you know what I mean? And didn't really understand the rules. So yeah, I was very, very lucky. And so I did Searching for Candy. Joe Schumann actually edited that one for me. He's edited all my books, actually. I love him because I trust him so much that, he edits for me. And then I've just bought out a second edition of that book a couple of months ago, because after I'd written that one, I met some more friends of John's, people who'd said no to an interview, had read the book and then go, actually, we can see you coming from a good place. Yeah, we'll give you an interview. So I've been able to update it 5 years later. So yeah, it's been great.
And this is what I was talking about. This is kind of what I was hinting at the beginning of this podcast, is that this is culture. This is our society. And regardless of where we are right now, these are things. I mean, John Candy is a legend. Him and Chris Farley, and I think you got to say, a lot of the Saturday Night Live sort of crew that came through them, Belushi,
Murray, Bill Murray,
all of those guys deserve their place in what is the stratosphere of culture and bringing comedy along, because if it wasn't for him, we wouldn't have Adam Sandler. If we wouldn't have Adam Sandler, we wouldn't have Andy Samberg. We wouldn't have all the people that we have now. It's a ladder of stars that have all followed on from them. So you need to document this. What was he like as a guy? How did he write? I mean, I always think about the Blackadder writing rooms back here in the UK.
Oh my gosh, that would have been amazing.
Would have loved to sit there and watching them bang lines of cocaine and write whatever they used to do. I don't know, but it just seems like a crazy place to be. That is where history happened.
Yeah. Well, I mean, going back to writers' rooms, John it started off in Second City doing improv, and then they'd started SCTV, which was like a Canadian sketch show. And in that group of people was Eugene Levy, oh my gosh, Dave Thomas, Joe Flaherty, Gilda Radner. Oh, sorry, not Gilda Radner. Gilda did do stuff at Second City with him, but it was Catherine O'Hara, who's amazing, Andrea Martin, Harold Ramis, like the quality of the people, that they were all working together and they were all at that sort of same level where they were just trying to break through. Can you imagine being in a writing room with them when you look back and you see all the stuff that they've done now, or, achieved in their lives? And I interviewed Dave Thomas, and he said that because they all used to write little bits, and John would come in and everyone would have been up all night writing, and John would come in with like a serviette with one idea written down on it. And he said, what you didn't realise was generally that idea was funnier than anything anybody else had been doing. But I can't imagine them just riffing off each other, creating characters. And what a ball that must have been, just to be a fly on the wall in that room must have been amazing. And yeah, it's really interesting to think, how do people create, and could we sit and watch them and just absorb it,
Yeah. And there was some iconic people, characters as well, come from that. It just seemed like something that you'd like to step back in time to, and that's what your book offers. Is it offers the opportunity to be that fly on the wall, and to talk about how did Wayne's World get written, because that was a Saturday Night Live thing as well, wasn't it? Came from a TV show, and then you've got how does someone go from being like a sketch writer to becoming one of the biggest comedy stars in the world, like John Candy became,
Yeah. I think partly it was that everyone supported each other, and as people went up, they all took each other up with them, Dan Aykroyd, and he worked with Bill, and obviously Harold Ramis, and then Eugene Levy, who is huge now, didn't have that many big parts back then, but John would always make sure he'd get him in on something, so he'd work on various films. And now Eugene Levy is like one of the biggest stars in Hollywood, especially after Schitt's Creek as well. It was like what an amazing comeback that was. So I think it's part looking after each other. I think it's part luck. I think it's part talent, and I think it was just a really creative time. You almost think there was something in the water. Do you know what I mean? But it wasn't. But it was just, what a time to be alive when you can actually go out, write these things, and they'll actually get them on TV. It's a lot harder now for people writing comedy now.
Have you seen the Saturday Night Live movie that they're making?
Yes, I've seen like a clip of it. It looks fantastic, actually. Yeah. It does look good, doesn't it?
I like to think there's more to Chevy Chase than him just falling on the floor because he thinks it's funny. But then again, it was a mad era to be doing stuff. What did you learn? Did you learn anything some of the most shocking things you learned from these interviews you did? Did there anything that was kind of like, I had no idea this was happening? Or what are some of the most shocking things you learned from that?
I wouldn't say necessarily shocking. I'd say I learned some sad things, really. I learned, going back, I was always really saddened to hear that John always thought he was going to die young anyway. His dad had died from heart condition in his 30s when John was just 5 years old. His granddad had died from a heart condition. So it was sad to hear that John thought, that was basically his life. He was a ticking time bomb. Yeah. So I think that's a really sad thing to hear. But because of that as well, he kind of lived extra in a way that, because he'd got married and he had kids and he wanted to leave something behind for them. I mean, in his career, and he died at 43, he'd done over 40 movies during that time. He'd worked back to back. He stayed up a lot. He lived a lot. He's kind of lived the life of an 80-year-old packed into 43 years. Do you know what I mean? And I think there's a sadness that comes with thinking, gosh, he had that hanging over him. And then there's this nice bit that you go, but he didn't waste a second. No. Do you know what I mean? Yeah.
And that's why it's important to talk about your passions and what you're good at, because especially while you're doing it, because then you can give something onto somebody else. Do you know what I mean? And John Candy, I'm pretty sure, I'm more than sure that there are so many comedians out there and actors that base a lot of what they do on what John Candy did, and even the work ethic too. Incredible.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, he was so funny as well, and the way he delivered, and he was a brilliant dramatic actor as well. Like, if you look in Planes, Trains, when he delivers some of those lines, and when he's saying to Steve Martin, I like me, do you know what I mean? He goes into that speech. It's phenomenal. And he did JFK. He had a cameo in that, and he was utterly brilliant as Dean Andrews, who was the corrupt lawyer. And if you look back on Dean Andrews' footage of actual Dean Andrews, he nailed it. He was brilliant in Only the Lonely. You know, he was a brilliant dramatic actor as well. But the thing I always think with John, Cool Runnings, brilliant film. Yeah.
Ice.
Do you know what?
Is it Ice? Sanka, You're Dead is one of my lifetime things. I've always said, like, we play Helldivers, me and my friends. We play Helldivers on the PlayStation. And one will get blown, he'll get blown away, and I'll be like, Sanka, you're dead. And be like, yeah, man. Yeah. Have
you ever had a lucky egg, though? Do you carry a lucky egg around with you?
No, that would be great, though. It would be a great gimmick to have, wouldn't it? Can I offer you an egg in this trying time? That's always sunny. Right, okay, so it's halfway through the show. I did this thing on the podcast earlier, and it was really funny.
Yeah.
So I did sort of mention this to you the other day, make sure I got the right soundboard. This podcast, by the way, is all no filter. If I mess up on this podcast, I mess up on this podcast. That's the way it is. But this is the segment of
what the fuck is going on here?
Rants. And I threw a thing on Facebook about pet peeves, little things that annoy people, and my Facebook blew up. Honestly, people went absolutely nuts. What we'll do is I'll have a look at some of these. I read like 4 of these because we went on a tangent when I interviewed Ad Dribs earlier. We did like 3 or 4, but we'll go through some of these that people said. And then I'll ask you about a couple of yours you may have. I mean, a couple of my pet peeves is, one is things draped over the top of doors. I hate that shit.
Okay.
Can't shut the door. Just find somewhere else to put it. I mean, I'll do it, and I'll be like, why have you done that for, Wiley? And also, cookie acceptance pop-ups on websites. Like, do you accept? Because we don't read it. We just go accept. They could be like, can you empty your bank account into ours? Accept. But anyway, let's read what other people wrote. My cousin Samantha Priest, she put, when people say teachers have too many holidays.
Ooh.
I mean,
yeah, no, I can understand that.
6 weeks, 7 weeks is not a bad time to, but yeah, I get it. I totally get it.
I totally get it. And plus, when they go on holiday, they're going to be paying top dollar, aren't they, as well?
Money,
they never
money.
get to go. Yeah, they never get to go outside of that.
Teachers are great. Make sure you back up your teachers.
We love teachers.
Ellie Morgan put, dishes put in the sink with food all over them.
Ooh, yeah. Okay.
Yeah, that's awful. My brother, Connor, he put, my pet peeve is when members of society deem it appropriate to obstruct the streets or the supermarket with their conversation. Like, get out of the effing way. Or double whammy when they slow walk and when we're always in a rush. I think, who else put that? Somebody else put that as well. Amy Toohey, who was great, by the way. I love you, Amy. She used to co-host with me for a little bit with the Shoes of Biscuit. She's great.
I know Amy. She's my friend of my friend Ellie's. Yeah, she's great.
Awesome. Yeah. Kick-ass she is, actually. That's probably the best way to describe her. She put being stuck behind slow walkers. I'm calm about everything else in life, but oh my goodness, this book's rage in my soul I never knew existed. I love you, Amy. That's brilliant. Jill Simpkin, who I worked with at the prison. I love you, mate. I hope you're great. She put things in shrink wrap which are almost impossible to open. Trying to get into your new game or your DVD back in the day, like trying to get into those things. Motherfuckers.
It's hard when I used to work at Virgin Megastore, and the tags as well, getting those tags off was really difficult.
Yeah,
I'm with her on that one.
Worked in Asda for years. Usually you put them in the finger, it takes the red thing out, but you can't get it out, and that's it. It's screwed. Anthony Evans put, why is cling film so difficult to deal with? Yeah.
It's true. Yeah. It's a tricky little bugger. It is. It's trickster.
Miriam Banish from the US, a good friend of mine. How's it going, Miriam? She put, someone taking my phone or computer charger because they lost theirs. I am guilty of this. I'll borrow my wife's laptop. She likes to leave her laptop on when she's not working in case she misses anything that she can get to in the morning. I've been known to borrow a charger and not put it back, so I am guilty of this one. So
okay.
Sorry, wife. We'll do 2 more. Laura Shepherd put, someone put an empty milk bottle back in the fridge. Yeah, that's a bad one, that is. You think, I'm just going to have a cup of tea. No milk! And then Steve Oliver. Great shout, Steve Oliver. Great. He's great.
I know Steve as well.
He's a great guy. He's always happy.
Yeah,
he put parking on double yellows opposite my house while waiting for people at the hospital, predominantly taxis. So blocking up spaces on double yellow lines. Yeah, awful. Yeah. So, Tracey, have you got a couple? Have you been thinking about this today?
Oh, I do. Yeah, I do. I'm actually going to turn some of mine into little comedy sketches, I think, because my friends call me Sweary Poppins. So I'm going to turn into a Sweary Poppins character and do that. But one of my biggest ones, I'm not going to do the character now, but one of my biggest ones that I'm going to do a little sketch around is people bagging dog poo and hanging it in a tree. Hanging it in a fucking tree, man. Have you been around Horman recently? You'll walk around and it's beautiful. And there's birds and there's gorgeous sounds and there's nature, and then you'll just walk along and there's just dog poo in a bag hanging from a tree. Like, what's that about?
Yeah.
What the fuck is going on here?
Thank you, Arnie.
It just blows my mind every time, and I never get over it. I never will. And you can see it 3 years later, hanging from there. It's like I don't know, is it meant to be like an Easter egg? I don't know. But yeah, it's just,
if you do that, you're a bastard to nature, because you've done the worst. You could have just left. I mean, leaving it on the ground is bad enough. You're an ass for doing that. But launching it in a tree, that could, like, bad.
makes no sense whatsoever. I just don't get it. I don't understand people. If I ever see one doing it, anybody doing it, run, because I am ready for you.
I can imagine if you're on Hormond Hill and you hear, "Oi, it's Tracey chasing some dog walker," and you better run.
You run, yeah. I will find you.
I think any sort of I saw someone about it's in Telford, I think it was. It's fly tipping, and they took nine journeys to empty whatever they had in it. Motherfucker! Like fly tipping's the worst. Somebody did it up on was it on Carden Mill Valley or something like that? There was just
I heard about it. Wasn't there rat poison and everything?
Yeah, I think it was Carden Mill Valley. Could have been somewhere else, but yeah, that's terrible. So. Yeah.
It doesn't make sense, does it? Don't do it. We were taught this back in the 80s, kids. You pick up your litter, you put it in the bin. We don't litter. You pick up your dog poo. You certainly don't throw it in a bloody tree.
No.
I don't know what you expect to get from that, but yeah. So that is probably my biggest pet peeve: dog poo in trees.
Thank you. And I spoke to my last guest, and he was like, "I'm mainly kind of a positive person. I don't really think about negativity." Instead, I started reeling off other people's, and he was kind of, I've got a couple. He was we need to rant about these things. We need to.
Yeah, we do. And people who don't say thank you, what's that about? How can people not say thank you? Is that not inbuilt into us as British people? And it's just nice to say thank you. I just don't get it.
Who was it? It was I think was it a comedy stand-up or something, where it was like, when somebody holds the door open for someone and they don't say thank you, do you want to run up to them and be like, "Go back"?
Yeah,
you can't take
shut it in your face.
But I think this is where this has all come from with the Biscuit guy, with me, about wanting to rant and say, is because I feel like I'm too polite for my own good, mostly. And I feel like sometimes I come home and be like, why the fuck did I apologise for that thing that somebody else did?
Yeah.
I think like things like that so great on you during the day. You're like, oh, man. Am I really that much of a cuck in life that I'm just letting people walk all over me?
Definitely not.
So we need to have these rants. I think it's important. And I feel like if you've got an ability to be creative, whether it's with music or whether it's with like something like the podcast or writing, if you've got like a task to focus on, I feel like it's really, really important. It's a great tool to have. Do you feel like on days where you're a bit stressed or a bit strained, getting lost into a project like writing a book or writing a few essays or something that you can use in the future, does that help you a lot?
Yes, sometimes. But my brain's like there's two different things. So sometimes it really helps me, and sometimes it plagues me like death itself. I really am like two sides of like, I'm either really, really productive and grateful for doing it, or sometimes I just feel tortured. And I'll find a million reasons of things not to write if it's a bad writing day. But once you get something down, you're away. That's the thing. You have to kind of lie to yourself a little bit, I think, and go, no, it's all right, you can do it. And then you're off again, aren't you? But a house does get cleaned quite often if I've got a deadline coming up.
Oh, you do that too?
Yeah. Oh my God. Yeah. Let's do, there's a deadline. Let's make sure we go right to the wire. really shit our pants, but the house is clean and my washing's done, and everything else that I've been putting off for 6 months miraculously seems to have resolved, and
I will look at my desk where I am right now and I'll be like, that won't do. So I'll empty the bin. I'll take the clothes off my chair, whatever stuff's on my desk, and I'll maybe even give it a dust. I might dust the screens.
That's how far you go, having a dust as well. Yeah,
procrastination. It's a big thing. I've never been tested for ADHD. I mean, part of me don't care if I got it because I feel like it's the energies that I have when it comes to create sometimes can be a hindrance because, like I said earlier, I can say yes to too much, but also it does motivate me to create and to be like bold. Like having a podcast like this is wearing your heart on your sleeve. It's almost like a popularity contest. If no one listens to your show, then you look like a bit of a dick, really. Do you know what I mean? But this show is different because I don't care. This is my therapy.
Yeah, no, that's great.
I love that,
Me too.
Yeah. What? So after Search for Candy, I mean, I was looking at your books on Amazon. What came next after that? After you'd put that down, you're like, that was great. What's next?
I thought about doing an A to Z. I saw some illustrated A to Zs of different artists and things, and I thought, well, actually, that would be quite a nice stocking stuffer at Christmas. So I did the A to Z of John Candy, and it's basically it's illustrated by Gary McGarvey. And it's just a fully illustrated, it's like the size of a Mr. Man book. Wow. And it's just chock full of facts, really. So, yeah.
I love stuff like that.
Yeah, I'll send you one. I will send you one.
Oh,
and that was a lot of fun, and it was a lot quick to write, and a lot of the facts I kind of knew already, and I found out a few new ones, and it was a really fun project to work on. And then after that, not because I'm obsessed or anything, but then I was like, well, what about if I was to write a book about planes, trains and automobiles? Because there was so many script changes. There were so many scene changes. There were so many things. I think they filmed, the original edit was 4.5 hours and John Hughes had to cut it right down. And I was like, well, there must be some comedy gold in there that they've had to scrap or, plot twists or changes and things like that. So then I wrote... Those Aren't Pillows, a fan's guide.
I got the graphic.
Oh my goodness! Well,
I did have the A to Z as well, but you had
you did.
You had a physical copy. I was like, that's even better than that. Do you know what I mean? So
thank you.
Well, there you go. Those Aren't Pillows. Yeah.
Yeah, and that was a really fun one as well. I mean, I've watched the film a lot anyway, but I think I watched it sort of 10 or 12 times whilst writing the book, and I got to go through several old scripts. And there was lots of things in there that they'd changed or missed out. And it was just lovely to learn about. And it's one of those films like, well, obviously we don't have Thanksgiving over here. For me, it's a Christmas film. Yeah. But in America and Canada, every year, they watch that religiously as a Thanksgiving film. And how can you not love Del Griffith? He's just... if you met him on the road, you might think, oh, God, please just make him shut up, or like, get this man away from me. But what a heart of gold, really.
I kind of like
absolute joy.
I like having characters like that in my life, though. I kind of I like people for their quirks. There are people out in my life that I'm kind of like, you annoy me, but I'm so glad you exist. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. But they're unique, aren't they, for one? And also, I think with all of John's characters, he made it okay to be flawed because we're all flawed. None of us are perfect. And he made it okay to be flawed as long as you've got a good heart. He was bled that onto the screen. And I think that's what made me love him so much, because I was never going to be perfect. But as long as I'm good enough, that's okay. I just think that's a lovely message.
It really is. Have they done a movies that made us on this film yet? Because I feel like they've done a few.
Not on Planes, Trains. They did Home Alone. Yeah, they really do. And they need to interview me for it, I think. I'm sorry, my cat Mooch is in the background.
You're allowed to. Cats and dogs are allowed on the biscuit of any kind. It's fine.
It's good to know. I think they'd be brilliant if they did one. They did a Home Alone one, which was a lot of fun. And obviously John was in Home Alone as Gus Polinski, Polka King of the Midwest, and he'd filmed all his shots in 24 hours. He'd literally rocked up, done it, had a lot of fun doing it, and then left again.
Was it true that he was just in the area? Was he actually meant to be in the film, or was he just on set?
No, he did. He did it as a favour to John Hughes. The budget I think had been squashed, and I think they changed production companies, and they'd been having some issues. And John Hughes offered him, I think, 1%. If this is true, this is what I've heard, this is what I've read, but I've not heard it. Obviously, John Hughes is no longer with us to confirm. He offered 1% of the profits from Home Alone if John came in and sort of did this cameo. And John said, no, I'm not having that. You're my mate. I'll just come and do it. And little did he know that it was going to be like the biggest Christmas movie of all time, up until about 5 years ago, I think, when The Grinch took over. And he actually got paid union rate, which was $414. So that's what he actually got for Home Alone.
The gambles you take, honestly.
Yeah. But I think, he was happy to do it as a favour. John Hughes brought a lot to John Candy, and they were two peas in a pod, and they were great friends. So he was always happy to help a friend out.
Do you think we've seen anything close to what those original those people we're talking about, those legends, the Chevy Chases and the Belushis and the Farrellys? Do you feel like we've seen that, anything close to that since them days?
I don't know. It's a hard one, isn't it? I mean, in the 90s, as you say, we had Wayne's World, we had Mike Myers, and, we had those sort of characters. And I do believe you're right, they wouldn't have existed if it wasn't for SNL. And also going back to SCTV and Dave Thomas, him and Rick Moranis used to do a sketch which was very, very similar. And I know Dave Thomas worked with Mike Myers later. Interestingly enough, Mike Myers went into comedy because as a kid he met John Candy.
Wow.
And he said, how do I get into comedy? And John said, well, if you're really serious, you should join Second City, which is like the comedic improv troupe that, in Canada at that time. So he obviously, from there, he inspired a lot of people as well. But I don't know. What do you think? Maybe I'll look back in 20 years and go, oh, no, that was the guy. I think Steve Carell's brilliant. I think
Steve Carell.
Fantastic.
And the Evan Goldbergs and the, you got Jonah Hill starting to make things now. Seth Rogen. Those kind of crew, I mean, they're close to... They got the Canadian Jewish thing going for them, haven't they? They kind of all come from the same sort of background, but they mingled with the right people, I think, the right production crews and those people that have come through that academy of the 80s to 90s writers. I think, but they've made a good effort. I feel like that there's, I don't know. I don't think so. I think Simon Pegg deserves a good shout. I think he's a good comedic writer.
And Nick Frost, both of those guys, I mean, they kind of created their own scene as well, didn't they, from Spaced onwards, really?
Yeah.
And then Shaun of the Dead, and no, you're right. See, this is why I think when we look back in 10 years' time, we'll be able to pick and pinpoint people better, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
I wonder what I'd be watching if I was 8 now.
I do that. I think that all the time. I look at what my kids looking at, and I'm thinking, what's a skibbity toilet? Like, what is all that shit going on? Like all the stuff you watch on YouTube.
What
skibbity?
What is it?
Skibbity toilet. I'll try and find a picture for you now. This thing.
A skibbity toilet. Is that actually a toilet, or is it?
It's a game, but it's gone like it's like a meme now. This thing's weird. It's a thing that comes out of a toilet. I'm going to save the image. It's probably going to... I
like it instantly when you say that. I don't know why. Is it a poo? Is it a poo that comes out of the toilet?
When you see it, you'll be like, "What?" I hope it doesn't come out grainy. Like, I keep downloading things. And it comes out. Again, this is very much like Saturday Night Live. It is how it is. Let's get this picture up on here. Where is it? There we go. Where we go on here? Have a look. Downloads skibbity toilet. There's lots of weird stuff on YouTube at the moment. My son keeps coming up to me. Will it show it properly? It's just a head that comes out.
What is? It could be a poo with a head on, though, couldn't it? If we're being honest.
There's a game, skibbity toilet. It's just there's some weird stuff. I think there's a lot of potential with some young writers, I imagine. But like, I feel like once you found your era, you found your era. I'm a big Kevin Smith fan. True. I love Kev Smith.
Yeah,
he's one of my heroes growing up. I like anybody that's created something independently and it's gone to be big.
Fantastic. Yeah, absolutely. And he's kind of just, he seems like your average Joe, but he's not obviously your average Joe because he's gone on and made some amazing things, amazing scripts. But, he's kind of, you're right, anybody who does anything independent, DIY till we die.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's punk in it.
I'm kind of annoyed with the whole Wrexham Hollywood thing because, like,
Are you?
what one of my things is like, again, independence, like, and I learned a long time ago about Always Sunny being made with props that are made out of like broomsticks and like they're next to nothing, like, and it went on to become the huge success that it was. And Rob McElhenney and those guys, that writing team, are just phenomenal. And obviously this thing's happened in Wrexham where they've bought the football club. Growing up there, it's a bitter sweet kind of thing for me because it's kind of really nice to see these developments happen in Wrexham. I was chatting to my oldest son today. He grew up in Wrexham and he's kind of like, he ribs me. He's like, oh yeah, Wrexham's going to beat Shrewsbury. I was like, they probably will. Okay, they probably will. But hey, it is what it is. But yeah, it's all about like making things because you can, not because you got to. You're not part of a production team for Fox or for Disney or anything like that. You're making this thing that's brand new and you've got to make it shine. And people that have done that, I think, are phenomenal.
Absolutely, because you haven't just got to write it, produce it, and do everything else yourself. You've got to fund it. You've got to scrape all that sweat and tears. And You've got to pull favours. It's your passion that gets you through that, isn't it? If you weren't passionate about that project, it would be a non-starter from day one. And yeah, I just think people who just take it upon themselves to do things and create things, you don't have to have permission to do that, do you?
No.
You can give yourself permission. Do you know what I mean? And just crack on. And it's how you learn as well.
And there's a great community in Shrewsbury, isn't there, of writers that are all sort of helping each other, and the community, the collaboration. And you've got the Writers Lab as well that you guys are very proud of. I still haven't been to a Writers Lab. I might be able to now because I'm on 4 on 4 off, so I might be able to. So
yeah, you come down to a Writers Lab. That would be great. I tell you what as well, have you heard of Giant Leap Comedy? They've just started doing some improv classes as well. And because John had done like improv in Second City and we'd never had anything like that in Shrewsbury, and I was like, whoa, I'm going to go and try that. And they're great as well. There's so many good things, comedic things, writing things going on at the moment. It's brilliant.
I do the, what is it that he does in the office? I'm Michael Scarn, FBI. Improv every time, just for a laugh. Michael Scarn. I love that. There's an improv comedy group in Shrewsbury.
Yeah, I think I don't know too much about them yet. I know there's one on Sunday, so I'm going to go to that. I've been to one. It was my first improv ever, and I was nervous as hell. And I'm not going to lie, for the first half an hour, I felt like a real idiot because you have to like let things go, shake off all that self-consciousness and everything else, and just go for it. And so the first half hour, I felt like an idiot. And then I think by the second hour, I'd made some people laugh, and that was amazing. What a great feeling. And then I kind of settled into it and just sort of went with it. And it was so supportive. Everyone was so sweet. And I just thought, wow, this is something I wish I'd done 20 years ago, but we didn't have it in Shrewsbury 20 years ago. I've got it now. So yeah.
I want to get involved. I'm on an improv podcast tomorrow. It's called Impropod. The Impropod podcast. So I think I go over a couple of stories, and then he improvises some music about the stories of my life, which is
get out. That's amazing.
Yeah, so I'll make sure I share the link with you guys, and also I want to try and get Luke on my podcast as well to talk about what he does, because that's kind of what I want to do. I want to kind of exchange content with people, sort of bring people on, that sort of thing. Improv is all about saying yes and being silly and having the license to do those things, and I feel like we live in such an Instagram world and TikTok world. I mean, I suppose TikTok can kind of help with that sort of. You can be a bit silly on TikTok and do those sort of two-sided phone calls. Those kind of things that people do, making sketches for yourself. I suppose that is a great tool to kind of bring people on and be a bit silly, but to have like somewhere to flex that muscle is really important, isn't it? Yeah.
Absolutely, and just like a safe space to do it as well. I was the oldest person in the room. I hate to admit it, but I was not used to that. I'm used to, but I was the oldest person in the room, and it didn't matter. And no one made me feel like that, and it was just like everyone just got on and collaborated. And the yes and part of it, where you always take the story forward and you're always working with each other. It was a revelation for me.
Sounds really good. Are you working on anything at the moment? Are you writing at the moment, or are you taking a break? Or
I am. Yeah, I am. I'm writing. Surprise, surprise. I bet you probably can't guess who it involves. I'm writing
John Bon Jovi.
a fan. How did you know?
Because we're halfway there. Different John.
Different John. Yeah, after doing Those Aren't Pillows and really sort of deep diving into planes, trains and automobiles. Thank you. Oh my God, you're so good. You're so quick on that button. I'm now doing Molly Russell's Wart, A Fan's Guide to Uncle Buck. So, so that's what I'm writing at the moment.
The scene where he takes the door handle off and he's there with the drill. Iconic.
We all need an Uncle Buck.
Iconic. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that scene where he's in the urinal in the kid's toilet and he has to get right down.
Oh my God.
So
I don't see my mum laugh that much, but she watched that and she killed herself laughing. And it's so simple and he doesn't even say anything. It's just, it's phenomenal. Yeah.
Do you know,
funny.
There was a movie that nearly killed me on a date once, years and years ago.
Oh, really?
Don't tell my wife. It's fine. It was way before I met my wife. It was The Other Guys with Mark Wahlberg. And Raphael, and it's a simple scene. So I went on a date with this girl. She'll never see this. So if you do and you recognise this date, I'm very sorry. But we went to watch The Other Guys, and there's a scene with The Rock and Samuel L. Jackson, and they're chasing this guy. They get up on a roof, and it's like not like a skyscraper, but a tall building. And he zip lines down and cuts the zip line, and they look at each other and they go, aim for the bushes. And he goes, aim for the bushes. And they jump off the roof and then just splat on the floor. And I was like, it's such a stupid sketch. I was like this water coming from my eyes, and this, I'll turn to the side, but the girl was looking at me, and she must have looked at me, and I must have been like laughing in her face and trying to breathe, like. And afterwards, I was like, "Yeah, I get it."
Oh,
see you when I see you.
Oh no, she was
breathe.
a fool. I tell you, a fool. You want people who can laugh out loud. That's brilliant.
Oh God, but yeah, I love a good laugh. You need a good laugh. Do you find yourself when you're writing these books reliving these jokes and these moments? Like, does it kind of fill you with joy?
It does. It fills me with a lot of joy, but also that I have to be honest, when I started writing about John's death as well in the book, I think I took myself to bed for 24 hours. Because I was just so upset about it. Because after you learn, I've never met John, but after you've learned about him and you've written about his life and you learn and you hear so many stories and you feel like, he's somebody, and then you go into that and how he passed. And it's just so sad. So there was a lot of laughing. And there still is a lot of laughing, and I love to rewatch loads of his old sketches and these old films. And, there's always something new I think you can find as well, which is amazing. After all this time, you can still find new things. But yeah, some tears as well. That's okay. I always think, they come together, don't they? I
used to do a Futurama-based podcast. We did it for... how many episodes? I can't remember. With Tom Bruno, who I did You Suck and Thorskin with. We did a Futurama podcast. We thought it was really fun to just talk through. And I think it was called Bite My Shiny Metal Show or something like that. I can't remember what it's called. some Bender-based joke. And I got so fed up with it. I love Futurama. But I was having to watch the episode, pause it, write something, watch a little bit, write something, pause it, right, and it was just like so fucking. I was just like, I can't be arsed with this no more. Like, it's so hard to focus on one thing and get it right, because if you spent ages writing a book, and then somebody wrote to you and be like, "You got this wrong," and then you look back and oh no, like that.
They always do. They'll always find something, I bet
you get lots of mansplaining on your comments and stuff. I see on Facebook all the time. Not with you. No, and people in general.
No. Yeah, no, I do. And I've had somebody gone, I've gone through your book and I've corrected it all. I can send it to you if you'd like. And I'm like, do you know what? It's all right. We're doing a re-edit. We're doing a new edition. Thanks very much. But it's all right. Yeah. You keep that for yourself. Thanks for the effort.
Imagine being that arrogant. You've literally marked someone's book with a red pen.
I know. Wow. But also, reviews. Reviews are brilliant because they always help with the algorithms of getting your work out there. But some people really go to town on the reviews, and I've had some lovely reviews, and I've had some stinkers as well. And they'll write essays, and I'm like, wow, you're really you're passionate about this. Thanks for putting all that negative energy in.
I think it's it's one of the best. I swear to God, like if somebody's looking at the psychology of, these trolls and things on Facebook and the people that write these horrible things, like the amount of effort people go to tell people how much they don't care about something, there's got to be something there. If you've spent so long carefully writing this paragraph or essay, depending on how pissed off you are about it, then you've got to care to some extent, haven't you, really? You could just breeze on by, but no.
The best thing is when they found a spelling mistake, and every book has a mistake. Every book has a mistake. You can watch it, read it 20 times, another editor can come along 20 times, somebody else will read it and they won't pick up on it, and then it goes to publish, and then all of a sudden there's this glaring error. And it makes me laugh. And then they write this big long essay about how awful you are. And then they've got spelling mistakes in there. And I blooming love that. I love it when they do that, because you're like, okay, you've just, no one's perfect. You've just proved it,
People have read it with that finer tooth comb. At least they've really thoroughly gone through your work. What are your thoughts? I mean, I know we're running short on time, but very quickly, the world's talking about AI at the moment. I found some great uses for AI. The terms and conditions on my website. Make sure you check out the Shrewsbury Biscuit, the Shrewsbury Biscuit podcast.co.uk, made for us by Web Orchard. But the terms and conditions that are on there, I run through AI. If I'm writing an email where I'm pissed off, I'll run it through AI just to be like, because I remember the job that turned my job that I'm not mentioning them yet. But the job that they withdrew their job offer a very inappropriate time for me. I wrote them a stinker of an email and I run it through AI and actually took a paragraph out because it said it was too much. I got too personal with it.
I'd love to see the unedited version.
Oh yeah,
you obviously needed to get it out, and I'm not surprised you needed to get it out.
But it's a great tool for some things, but not for things like books, for movies, for scripts, for things like that take real human emotion. Because if you've ever run anything through AI, it doesn't take those things into consideration, not at all.
I'm really scared of AI. I'm not going to lie, I'm scared of it, and therefore I've not even looked at trying to use it, because I'm the guy who designs my books, Gary McGarvey. He's like, it's not all bad. There's some good things that can come from it. He's a designer and he's saying that. Do you know what I mean? So I'm like, oh, okay, Gary, but I'm terrified of it, because I just think, I don't know how it works. I don't know what it does. I don't know where it takes that or where it pilches it from. And I just think, there's, I'm sure I've got a lot to learn. I'm sure it'll do some good stuff as well. But in terms of a creator, a bit scared over here. And I shouldn't be. I should be educated instead.
I think we need to draw some lines with it. I think we need to say, for creativity, there's a line here: don't ever buy a book that's created by AI. A bit like what they did with cloning technology. They were like, we made a sheep. It's possible. We're not going to do that anymore. We know it's possible. Do you know what I mean?
Yes.
Let's not do that.
Yeah. Move on. Yeah.
When it comes to giving someone with learning difficulties a voice, that's different.
Amazing.
When it comes to
totally
medical
different.
advancements, amazing. Even to the degree of you're looking for ideas for design. I mean, I've run the Shrewsbury Biscuits. I run it through AI all the time to see what it comes up with. It's bullshit. It's bollocks. The stuff it comes up with is so bad. And I'm like, that's fine. Web Orchard designed the logo for the Shrewsbury Biscuit. They did a great job. I know there's no one out there that can do better. Well, there is probably people who can do better, but from what it is, I love it. So AI is not close yet, I don't think. I mean, look at that Willy Wonka experience thing up in Scotland. That was all AI generated.
How wrong was that? I mean, that should have been a comedy sketch in itself, shouldn't it, really? You couldn't write that. That was, looking back, wow, that actually happened in real life.
They should make a movie about that.
Oh, they should. I'd go watch it.
So with the Uncle Buck book, that's a funny thing to say. How far away are you? I mean, what's the kind of time frame you're looking at so people can look forward to it?
I'd say a couple of months before finishing it.
Okay.
So yeah, we'll see. It may or may not be out for Christmas. That's the good thing about publishing yourself. You can sort of scrap, long deadlines and things like that. And if it's ready, it's ready. And if you're good to go, you're good to go. So potentially maybe for Christmas. But yeah, Joe Schumer might laugh at this. And my deadlines. Douglas Adams used to say, "I love deadlines. Love the way they go whooshing past." And I am a bit like that, I'm afraid. Give me some money to do a deadline, and I'd probably, I'd be a bit more serious about it. But as long as it gets completed in the end, I'm good. Yeah.
My deadline to start the Biscuit again was the 12th of August. I only recorded. I've got the first 2 episodes booked in. My life fell apart, so I kind of had to focus on that. So
it happens. That's life. And do you know what? You're still doing it. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
2 weeks is nothing, is it? In the grand scheme, it's we get there. It's good.
Absolutely. And if people are keeping a praying eye on what's going on with you and trying to look out for your next release, where can people keep an eye on you and what you're doing? Social media.
Social media. So at Tracey Mixed Bag, MIXEDBAG. So you can follow me. Not really on X or Twitter. I can't get used to calling it X.
I deleted my profile. I deleted it.
Did you? I'm really proud of you. I am so proud of you. I
don't mind the odd right-wing rant on Facebook. If you want to write about that shit, crack on. I'll ignore it. But everybody's doing it on X. It's so bad. I
just kind of don't go on there anymore, but I've still got an account.
I love the idea of... One of my favourite movies of all time is Chef with John Favreau. There you go. John Favreau is a great example of someone who's good creator.
He is, yeah. He is, yeah.
Elf, again, is one of he created that. It's great. Anyway, what was I saying? Chef. That movie is all about how his kid, shared things on Twitter. It's all about Twitter, that movie is, and how it all kind of snowballs into some crazy thing. I love the idea that Twitter used to be able to do that.
Yeah.
Not anymore. I think you only go viral on there for the wrong reasons. So
yeah, it's not good, is it? But certainly the same handle on Instagram, and obviously I'm on Threads. A lot of people have moved over, haven't they, onto Threads? It seems like a much nicer place at the moment.
I kind of like that, and I think I'm going to move the Biscuit guy onto Threads as well. I think I'm on Instagram and Facebook, so I need to move that over. It's just having another thing to throw your shit on, isn't it? Really, I mean, it's just a way to show people what you're doing. Yeah, absolutely.
And then searching for Candy, I have a page on Facebook, and searchingforcandy.com. I've got a blog. So yeah, plenty of ways. You can find me if you want me.
Well, on the write-up for this podcast, I'll put a link to... Can I put the link to the Amazon, maybe, so people can buy the book?
Oh, please do. Yeah, thank you so much. That'd be great. Thank you.
Cool.
Brilliant.
Well, this has been great. Make sure you stick behind after the outro so we can say goodbye properly.
Okay.
Thank you so much for joining me on this podcast, and I apologize for it not being the Shoes of Biscuit, but I feel like we can. I love this bit. Having that license to be a bit more free on this podcast. So
absolutely, no, thank you, and thank you for everything you do. You're a wonderful advocate for so many people.
Oh,
it's appreciated. It's appreciated. Thank you.
Oh, bless you. I really do appreciate that, and there's more to come. Absolutely more to come. Yeah. So anyway, guys, thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you, Tracey, for joining me today. It's been really nice speaking to you, and I hope you guys have a great day. Go fuck yourself.
Took my lumps, roll with the punches, made my bed, ignored my hunches. I focused on the wrong stuff, but baby, you are the change now.